It covers everything, and I'll be giving that out on Friday. So it's a huge document, but it walks you through step by step. So I have your buyer's process SOP. So stay tuned for that one as well. So without further ado, we scratched the surface a bit on Friday around educational or exploratory tours. We talked a lot about the theory, why we do it. A lot of people shared why they haven't done it. And they shared kind of what's happened as a result of not doing it. Now, as a result of not doing an exploratory or educational tour, typically what happens is people kind of feel that pressure. We're going to go look at homes. So this means like, you know, they're going to make me write an offer, but I'm not ready yet. And there's pushback. One of the magical pieces about exploratory tours is it lowers sales resistance because it is about education and exploration, not about purchasing a home. So when you're out on the exploratory tour, kind of people are like, well, what's the difference between an exploratory tour and like a regular, like just a regular tour? Like we're going to go out and look. Number one, it's all about creating context. Context is one of the most important pieces that you can instill within your buyers. It's not about going and purchasing a home. It's about you getting a deeper understanding of the market. So number one, when you go out and you launch an exploratory tour, it creates comparable data. You can compare apples to oranges. Now, in some cases, it's apples to apples. When I say apples to oranges, we've all run into this situation where it's like, they're telling me that, you know, like their budget is like that 650 mark. And they're telling me homes that are in like that $1 million plus. Anybody ever been in that? Like they want like 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, yet they're like pre-approved for like 375. Like they're in like condo or townhouse range. Now, sometimes what we can do is inside of an exploratory or educational tour, have 2 specific properties we look at, the one they can afford and the one that they're actually looking at. Another piece is inside of the buyer's consultation, have 2 saved searches set up. One based on price, one based on, again, like what they're qualified for or what they're telling you they're qualified for. And the second one based on wants. What's the disconnect? You've got one shot to get this right. And in some cases, when we cannot draw that clear distinction, those lines get really, really blurred. So this is why these tours are so important. Show people what they can afford versus what they actually are looking for. It also helps reveal true priorities. So sometimes what people say they're looking for, what they're saying is the actual why. It's different when you get them in the field. It also starts building a decision-making framework, and we're going to walk through what that framework looks like. It also prevents buyer's remorse. We should have looked at that property. Now it's gone. And last, this is where you are actually demonstrating your professionalism. This is you in the field. And if we think back to the whole process of a buyer's consultation, it's elevating you as that consummate professional. It's you putting that fence around every single buyer. It is so important that no buyers are left to stray. Who here is answering, like who here is outbound dialing today? Anybody here calling leads today? All right. How many times are you going to hear, I'm actually working with an agent? Yeah, I signed up on 3 sites. For anybody here who's running open houses, like last weekend you ran one, you heard, well, yeah, I'm just like, you know, I'm working with an agent and, you know, like I just thought I'd pop in and take a look. What that tells me is, number one, they're not working with somebody. You just kind of fell for that objection. Number two, their agent that they're working with really did a poor job positioning the buyer's consultation and an educational exploratory tour. Me personally, I would rather put a campfire out with my face than have my buyers going out through open houses. I would there's no way I would have my buyers signed up on somebody else's site. Doesn't exist. How do I make sure that doesn't happen? I actually position it during the buyer's consultation. And for anybody who sat through the scripting over the last week, you've heard those elements. You've heard those pieces. How do we build that invisible fence? Once that fence is built, we're then out in the field. Part of being out in the field is showing the people the homes. Now, when we're showing people homes, who here asks the same questions after every single house? Is there anybody who's built that framework out yet? I'll hold. Just think about it, right? Usually it's like, what did you think? Did you like it? What stood out? Oh, okay, here's where we're going next. And away we go. That is a massive trap that agents can fall into. So back in 2019, yes, 2019, when I first started building out what our buyer's process actually ended up looking like, one of the first things I did is I was putting in the educational exploratory tours, when I was adding like structure to what our buyer's consultations look like and building out the script. One of the major gaps for us is after we showed one home going into the next, how could we make sure we're comparing two homes in the same light? So what every agent did is on their phone, they had a notes section. In that notes section were the top questions that we asked. We asked the exact same questions after every single showing. Why was that important? Who wants to chime in? Why was that important? Why is it important to ask the exact same questions? What are your thoughts? Or hey, push back. Maybe you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. What do you guys think? Yeah, Megan.
To get the consistent feedback from the buyer on every single property that you show them, so you're not left wondering or leave a question out. But to be really thorough.
Yeah, super thorough. So thorough, it's another one. So what's another reason why it's important to ask the exact same questions after every single showing? So thorough. What else?
I would think so you don't forget what to ask, the important questions, like, so you don't forget. It's just natural, normal. It's because you can do that.
That's great answer.
It's flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll see something that people either like or they don't like, and the whole conversation gets derailed and you end up on one focal point and miss all the other pieces. And they'll always talk about the last thing that resonated. Typically, they'll forget the first. So it's really important to ask the exact same questions. But even before we get to that, prior to the tour, it's so important. Now, you hear me say this word a lot, calibration. Does anybody know what calibration means? Y'all know what calibration means? Anybody? All right, so hit me. What does calibration mean, smart asses? What is it?
To make sure that everything, whatever tool we are using is accurate.
Yeah, accurate, but we're also all on the same page. What you're looking for, what you expect is the same as what my standard is. Calibration for me, what that means is I operate, you can see there's a reason that I'm talking about this. This is all about creating standards in your business. You have standards. Your prospects, your clients have expectations. Expectations are here. Standards are typically here. My standards, they don't increase, they don't decrease. I do the same thing every single time. Clients' expectations, prospects' expectations, I either need to lower them or in some cases I need to raise them up. A standard to an expectation is what fact is to fiction. So without calibration, everybody's kind of running around thinking that they're going to get something different. Like, here's what I'm going to deliver. Here's how I like to show a home, but I don't know how you like to show a home. So what calibration does is it adjusts expectations to your standards. Your business needs to have standards. Where does that start? Business planning. How we convert leads. How we do one thing is how we do everything. That's the beauty of this whole curriculum. It teaches you one way. One way. Right? Can you imagine, like, if you're a basketball fan, can you imagine if, like, think of like Kobe. Every time Kobe ran a layup, can you imagine if he did it different every single time? Different mechanics every single time? Or Jordan at the free throw line, adjust his mechanics every single time? I mean, what would happen? Streaky inconsistency. So number one, prior to the tour, it's so important to create that level of calibration. How would you like to explore the home? Ask. I talked about this in scripting this morning. My wife, for example, my wife actually graduated in the top 1% of the Canadian National Staging Academy. My wife is a certified stager, and she's top 1% in Canada. She's also an interior designer, and she's an underwriter for one of the big 5 banks here in Canada. She does everything. She also makes really good gluten-free sourdough bread. So like literally she can do anything and everything. How she likes to view a home is definitely going to be different than how somebody who maybe doesn't have that trained eye. Yeah, walk me through, point it out, where she's like, don't talk to me. I need to go in and take in the space. It's so important to ask. You will drive disconnection by having differentiating expectations and standards. Next, how do you prefer to discuss the properties? So important to ask that question prior to the tour, because guess what happens? People start discussing the property inside the property. Who can tell me one red flag to discussing the property in and around the property? What is it? Hit me.
There's cameras, microphones. You've insulted the seller.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Absolutely. And if you think back to some of the things we practiced this week, we talked about buyer's rep agreement. Well, why are we talking about buyer's rep agreement and like showing the property? Because the buyer's rep agreement, when we position it, we talk about your motives, everything about you. Everything that could benefit you, I need to tell you. But again, if we're starting to talk about your finances, what you're pre-qualified for because you're in love with the home, and we're standing on the front porch and there's a ring camera right there, you telling me people, oh, wait, we shouldn't be watching this. Be the first thing used against you. So it's so important to get that out of the way. How do you prefer to discuss properties? Because here's what I'm going to do. Here's what my standard is. So I either need to lower your expectations or maybe I need to raise the bar. Oh, like we'll just shoot you a text afterwards, like whatever, we'll go home and talk about it. No, here's what I like to do. So my process is this. What role would you like me to play? The role that you think people want you to play, chances are is night and day from the role that they actually want you to play. Sometimes you think you're being like really, really helpful. Like I got an 18-year-old son, and trust me, he thinks he's being helpful when he unloads the dishwasher. But guess what? Then takes my wife 20 minutes to find all the random shit he puts in places it shouldn't belong. Here he is thinking he's like, gets a gold star. Whereas my wife's like, I just wish he didn't touch it. Right? So again, having that conversation up front, what role would you like me to play? Talk to me about your previous experiences. Those types of questions can form calibration. Kind of seeing how this is all coming into play. Now, without calibration, we operate on assumption. Now, what happens? Who can tell me what they say about assumptions? Anybody know? What do they say about assumptions? Interactive one today. What do they say about assumptions? Come on.
It makes an ass out of you and me.
Right? Well, that's one thing they say. Now, the second thing they say, and I'm going to offend some people here. So I apologize. I try not to swear before 9:17 in the morning. Good thing it's 9:18, so I got the green light.
Well, that was the boomer meaning.
That's a boomer meeting. Here's the alternate. Assumptions are the mothers of all fuck ups. The second that you, the second that you run on an assumption, well, I thought that that's the way they wanted to view homes. And we're sitting there wondering why nobody called us back. And they're like, wow, that was painful. This dude pointed out every single crack. He pointed out stains in the carpet. She pointed out again, like in some kind of weird easement thing. I don't even know what that was. They talked to me about zoning restrictions of everyone to go commercial. Like, what is this? Age of the fence. Yeah, I can see it. So again, you think you're being super helpful, you're assuming, but unfortunately on the back end, you're just kind of being like a little bit annoying. Have that conversation up front. Those are the 3 questions that you need to ask prior to viewing homes with any